Hi everyone. So I'm sorry, my Hungarian skill is not so good, or doesn't even exist. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for inviting me for this. I'm Ankit. I'm founding partner of Riceberg Ventures and also Kicksky Space Tech Accelerator, and would love to give you some story about what we are doing and how we can collaborate together. So that's why I use the title of From Frugality to Frontier for the Hungarian space ecosystem. So quick about me. I'm a physicist turned entrepreneur turned an investor. So that has been my journey. I started my career in India as a physics teacher. And I was also leading, the startup journey started like 10 years back when I was leading a product and edtech startup, which AI-based edtech startup. We were doing AI before AI was cool, which later exited for 180 million. I studied physics at ETH Zurich, and then briefly also worked at LIGO Virgo Collaboration, as you might have heard, and basically led a medtech startup in Zurich to the growth stage. And since then, my investing journey started. I co-founded Riceberg Venture, which basically invests in early stage deep tech startup across India, Europe, and US. So we, and then apart from that, we also co-founded Kicksky, which is a space tech focused accelerator. So my space tech journey actually started as a 16-year-old when first time I wrote a paper on light sails, if you know of that concept. So that was my first motivation to get into there. That was, of course, there was a school project, something that I did. But from there on, once I definitely started to get back in the entire deep tech investing, space was definitely a direct choice for me to get into. So we have invested in startups like EtherealX, which is building world's first fully reusable launch vehicle in the medium lift category. And we have also invested in Manastu Space, which is doing green propulsion engine for satellite, or Orbited. I saw in another presentation about space debris removal. They are also working in that space. So basically, we span across different space tech area. And so that has been my journey so far. And interesting enough, this story, I would like to share my connection with Hungary as well. When I was deciding to move to Europe for my education, I was considering University of Pix as one of the potential options to go and study. I chose Netherlands, but I could have been here. So that's probably more than a decade back. And on a very side note, I shot a movie in Budapest because I have a film production company on the side. So I keep coming to this place quite a lot, and I was very happy when Peter invited me to be here. So I hope that I'll be able to do some justice to your presence here. Of course, when I was asked to take this keynote, I was wondering, what can I do to tell a Hungarian crowd about Hungarian space ecosystem? Then I thought to take up a route to understand, because primarily coming from India and being active in the Indian ecosystem, which is an example of emerging ecosystem, how can we draw parallels and what kind of learnings we can actually draw, which probably will be helpful for the crowd here as well. So of course, when I was trying to dig into the Hungarian legacy, I think you all know it, so I don't have to explain it, that your legacy goes quite long back. I was very happy to read that. And of course, I was also saying that, am I saying a very generic stuff, or am I really saying something? I saw in a couple of more keynotes, these parts were covered, specifically pioneering the radio astronomy. So I hope I'm not too off track there. But the most interesting part was also collaboration between India and Hungary. I was surprised to find that actually Hungarian companies collaborated in Indian moon mission and also Indian Mars mission, providing certain amount of electronics. So this is very interesting. And let's see how we can, so in this particular keynote, what I'm trying to cover, that what was the journey of India and what we can learn from it, and how this can be helpful for an emerging space ecosystem like Hungary. So quick brief about Indian startup ecosystem. Actually, it's a bit relatively newer. The legacy is relatively newer as compared to Hungarian one, because we started our space agency in 1969. But within that period of time, it is now grown up to be the 6th largest ecosystem in the world. And apart from that, we opened, like earlier it was primarily the government entity taking care of the space part. We opened it to private market not long back, like 5-6 years back. But in that short time also, we have more than 400 private companies, which makes it 4th largest ecosystem. We are proud to say that we were the first in the world to actually reach the lunar South Pole, and also we were the first country in the world to go to the Mars in maiden attempt. So this is something pretty interesting that is going on in India. India is also launching a human space flight program, Gaganyaan. I'm pretty proud to say that one of the founders that we have invested in, EtherealX founder, was actually working on this project. So that kind of talent that is coming out also in the space tech startup ecosystem in India. Most important part, how did we do it? Because of course, India is still relatively, and when we started, we were even much more poorer country, still relatively poor country in per capita income, much smaller than Hungary. But how we ended up building a legacy in something like a space, which is considered accessible for the luxury or accessible for the premium class of people, premium part of the world. And one thing that I would really like to point out, that it was nothing other than a visionary leadership and unshakable motivation. These are the three gentlemen I would like to point out who are considered as the founder of the Indian space tech ecosystem, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Homi Jahangir Bhabha, and Dr. Abdul Kalam. Dr. Abdul Kalam ended up being one of the president of India as well. So you can imagine that if you have a motivation, you can do anything. I mean, if you're interested in these folks, there is a series called Rocket Boys that you can watch how they evolved in that journey. You can look at those pictures. We were literally transferring spacecrafts in bullock carts. That's how we started. Literally in bicycles and bullock carts, that's all the resources we had. And from there, coming to that stage, that saying that we are proud part of the space tech ecosystem is a long and humbling journey. And this is something that I always say that we all can learn from, and we would love to create that vibe in the talent ecosystem around the world. And this result is visible also in the Indian startup ecosystem as well. Like when we started to invest, people were thinking, how can you make business out of a space? Because a government-related thing, how you as a private investor can actually make money out of it. And we're very proud to say that this year, actually, India has a very vibrant startup ecosystem, more than $25 billion average annually being invested in that ecosystem. And this year, the highest amount of deep tech funding gone to the space tech startups. And there are a couple of great startups which are leading their way through in Indian ecosystem now. I mean, we also launched Kicksky as a part of that journey. So we have been experiencing that as we go, and it's also a lot of learning to go. Indian government also started in space, which is a privatization entity, because basically that is bridging the government entity to the private sector. And these kind of initiative created a vibrant ecosystem that we are all proud of. And this is something I think we can all learn from. So when I go take a step back and say, what does it take to actually build an ecosystem like this, right? So actually there are not much. You can point out to 4 main pillars which is actually needed to build any ecosystem anywhere in the world, and especially when it comes to these kind of innovations. And that is risk capital. This is important because, of course, the things that we are trying to achieve, a lot of gentlemen in this folk or women in this folk will agree, we cannot achieve it for free, right? I mean, we need money to be able to do that, and this money requires long patience because you don't see the result right away. That entire investment that is done like 60, 70 years back, even from poor country in India, is now today basically starting to reflect back. So this is risk capital that is needed. Second is infrastructure. Of course, we need to do research. We need to do stuff. So for that, we need the research infrastructure. But the third and the most important part is the talent. And the talent which has the skills and the vision to become basically one of the leading innovations ecosystem in the world. And of course, apart from that, we should not ignore we need a market. If you can keep innovating, but nobody is accepting in your vicinity that kind of innovation, then it's just so discouraging. You can't really make much out of it. So that's why, and unfortunately, these things exist in different silos around the world. But if we try to come together and put this together, then we will be able to do a lot of, we can jumpstart, not only on one country or two, right? It's more about creating globe to the different level, humanity to the different level. And that we can do if we can actually bridge different skills. We identify what is our skill and we try to bridge that and don't fight a wrong battle. The things we don't have, rather than fighting that, we should try to focus upon what we have and what we can make best out of it. And this is exactly where I would like to double down that what I thought that Hungary can do best at is basically building the talent ecosystem. And I was very pleased to hear that in the early keynotes today, that actually that thing has started, specifically by starting the space program in the graduation in the university that you are starting. That's an amazing move, I can say, as even an external person, because we have lived through that. India started exactly 20 years back an institute called IIST, Indian Institute of Space Technology. That was a space-dedicated university run by ISRO, Indian Space Agency, and all they offered a guaranteed job in ISRO for the talents that is graduating out of that. In beginning, people were not very excited about it. They were like, this will create a bit of low quality of talent, this and that. Of course, always there is a skepticism. Today, what happened, that these people graduated around 2010. They went to take a job in the ISRO, which is already when they were in their early 20s. When they are in early 30s, they have a decade of experience of working with the space agency, handling multiple launches. Now, these guys are motivated, and the moment country decided that they're gonna do actually a privatization, these guys are coming out and forming the startups that we are talking about. One of the founders that we have invested gone through actually the same pathway, right? So they are in early 30s, still hungry, still motivated, but they have a decade-long experience handling several launches, and this ecosystem is now paying off. That is actually boosting that entire ecosystem. So it takes time. Only thing I can tell you that you started a great pathway. It takes time. Have the patience. It will pay off. But more important, not only education is important, you should definitely, or we should collectively look the collaboration with the industry and this. If IIST was started just as education, it would not have been successful. That guaranteed job in ISRO basically paid the main, let's say, that was a game changer, because people thought their jobs are secure. They didn't want it to leave the country, because talent is not only about creation, but talent is also retention, that I also heard in other keynotes. That it's not just that you don't have talent, it's also about, can you retain them here? And that will only happen, of course, people who can't work hungry, right? So, I mean, sorry for that pun. But so overall point is that eventually we need an ecosystem which can retain this talent. And there are stuff that is out there. You have companies like Airbus, you have things like Police Space or Hun Space kind of ecosystem out there, where you can develop center of excellence, you can develop certain internship programs that these graduates can go and create a clear pathway to their industry, which can actually turbocharge their motivation. The moment you will start attracting the best talent and you skill them, they're gonna do the wonder. And you should play primarily on your strength. Of course, adversity comes from strength, because we could transport our rockets in a bullock cart. We did it very cheap. You know, that joke goes that Indian Mars mission was cheaper than the movie Martian. And this is what we keep doing that and always take a pride in this, right? This is same possible here as well, because a cost of a graduate in Hungary as compared to Western Europe is very different. So if you have a talent ecosystem that you can retain them here, you can build things cost effectively, and you will have an advantage that no other country in Europe will have. So that is something that one should really try to focus upon. And the second part, you have access to the infrastructure through your partnership within ESA and also EU as well, right? So you have access to the grants, you have access to the ESA infrastructure. That should be leveraged. And of course, it could be that sometime when you try to partner with a German company or a Swiss company, they may not take you, sorry to, I mean, I'm very direct, by the way, so sorry to say that upfront, that they may not take you that seriously. But you have an option to partner with all non-EU countries around the world who want to enter Europe. You can become the gateway for these companies to enter Europe, develop the partnership with ESA, develop the partnership with EU, all these friendly countries. And if you become that gateway, then definitely it's a huge potential to be explored. And of course, if you can take even certain amount of bold government reforms, right? I mean, what does it stop to providing certain sort of tax incentive or setting a company here? That will motivate company from all over Europe to set up a base here. And when they come here, they will do something. So overall, the point I want to say that if you really want to build an ecosystem, the first thing is start to attract the pioneers to come here. Silicon Valley wasn't Silicon Valley. It was just a piece of random land back then. Today it's called Silicon Valley. It's the people who build the ecosystem, not anything else. So if you do something to attract these people and retain these people, they will build the ecosystem by themselves. You as a government doesn't have to do anything. They will do it because they get bored by not doing things. So the focus should be how one can attract the pioneers. And that's something that I would like to say. And on a parting note, as Master Yoda would have said, the talent and vision, all you need there are. So definitely, we are excited. Anything we can collaborate with as a country, India, we are very excited. Of course, through our own entities, we are excited how we can work together and build that ecosystem. And we are looking forward to flying together, this time literally. Thank you very much.